Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something pretty significant that hit the news recently. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's decision, the one about stripping security clearances from 37 intelligence officials, that move definitely made waves. And our deep dive today, it's focusing squarely on the specific claims made in the source material you sent over, detailing the reasons behind this action. So our mission here is really to unpack the narrative, the very specific story and assertions presented in this source about, well, what led to these revocations. We'll be digging into a detailed timeline and a series of claims about how intelligence was supposedly handled, before and after the 2016 election, and also the assorted implications of all that. Now, throughout this, it's really crucial you understand we are presenting these claims exactly as they're articulated in the source material. We want to make sure you grasp the precise narrative being put forth, okay? No endorsement from us, just laying out what the source says.
Right. And the source, it kicks off by detailing the intelligence community's initial assessment. This is in the months leading up to the November 2016 election. According to this account, the assessment concluded Russia was trying to interfere, by sowing discord and chaos. But notably, it explicitly stated they had no preference for one candidate over the other, end quote. They apparently viewed both Trump and Clinton as, well, equally bad for Russia's interest.
Okay, so that initial assessment, that really sets the stage. Because the source then pivots, describing what it calls a critical shift. It claims that in early December 2016, so this is after the election, President Obama allegedly directed the DNI at the time, James Clapper, and CIA Director John Brennan directed them to come up with a new intelligence community assessment that contradicted the ones that had been produced previously, end quote. So the source is asserting a pretty fundamental change in direction right there.
Exactly, a direct contradiction. And this new assessment, as the source alleges, it then asserted that, quote, Putin did try to interfere in the election because he wanted Trump to win. The source really highlights this as a major departure from the intelligence community's earlier consensus.
And the narrative put forth by the source goes even further. It asserts this new assessment, well, it was based on shoddy intelligence, and critically on the Steele dossier. Now, some listeners might recall the Steele dossier was that controversial collection of raw intelligence reports put together by a former British spy. The source claims that John Brennan, James Clapper, and James Comey, who's FBI director, then allegedly knew that the Steele dossier was a political manufactured document, and knew it was intended to be weaponized against then-candidate Donald Trump.
Right. And from the perspective of this source material, this supposedly manufactured intelligence assessment, it had the specific intent of undermining the voices and votes of the American people who elected Donald Trump, end quote. The speaker in the source then connects a whole chain of events to this action, saying it led to the multiple investigations, the years-long Mueller investigation, the special counsel's probe into Russian interference, also 2 congressional impeachment investigations, and the raid at Mar-a-Lago, the search of former President Trump's place in Florida.
Wow. So the source really frames this with, very strong language. It states that the real crime here was against the American people because this action singularly undermined the integrity of our democratic republic, end quote. It characterizes this alleged intelligence shift as, well, a profound betrayal of public trust, essentially.
And it's right here that the source explicitly ties these past events back to the recent security clearance revocations. The source directly asserts that some of those 37 individuals whose clearances were pulled, quote, aided and embedded in this action, this seditious conspiracy that undermined our democracy, undermined our republic, and broke that sacred trust.
So that's the direct link made in the source. And beyond just those specific events surrounding the assessment shift, the source also raises some broader allegations, doesn't it? It assesses that high-ranking intelligence community members first tried to influence the 2016 election itself.
Yes, that's part of the claim, that they allegedly knew the dirty dossier, as the source calls it, was bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton, and it was from Russia, and it was not true. And then, according to this narrative, when their supposed attempts to influence the election didn't work out, they then aimed to undermine and sabotage the incoming president.
And this narrative even includes that bit about pre-bunking a laptop.
Right. Pre-bunking a laptop that they authenticated as very real in March of 2020. The source claims they did this by pre-bunking it with big tech companies, unquote. So to clarify for you listening, pre-bunking here, as the source uses it, seems to mean they allegedly warned tech companies about the laptop's contents before they went public, sort of framing it as potential disinformation. The source views this as, just another piece in this alleged pattern of undermining.
Okay, that's a lot of very serious claims. Does the source offer any backing for these assertions or point to evidence?
Well, the speaker in the material you provided does state that all these claims are detailed, quote, in hundreds of pages of documents that I've declassified and released, documents that supposedly show point by point exactly what happened through this timeline. And they state these documents are available on the odny.gov website.
Odme.gov. Okay.
So, yeah, that's the comprehensive narrative as it's presented in our source. It provides a very, very specific account of these events and, crucially, their alleged motivations.
All right. So we've just walked through quite a detailed deep dive into the specific claims from our source material. These claims are about the revocation of security clearances, yes, but also these wider, very detailed allegations about how intelligence related to the 2016 election was supposedly handled. We've explored the asserted shift in the intelligence assessments, the alleged use of, well, specific documents like the dossier, and the really far-reaching consequences attributed to these actions. Again, all as presented by the speaker in the source material we reviewed.
Yeah, and the narrative we've unpacked today, as presented in this source, it really revolves around some profound questions. Questions about trust in institutions, the integrity of information, especially in a democratic system. It highlights one particular perspective, a very strong one, on how information, once it's out there, can be perceived to have these huge effects on political processes, on public confidence.
Absolutely. Which I think raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. In this era where information is just, well, everywhere and often really contested, how do we, as informed citizens, critically assess such detailed claims about the potential manipulation of intelligence? And maybe more broadly, what are the long-term implications for public trust when these kinds of narratives about official sources circulate? Something to think about.